Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnuvad Paramansa Pariprajakacarya Stotra Satashi Srimad AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kuniki Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj. And thank you to everyone for joining us for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, January 18th, 2022 in New York, a day later in Vrindavan, and we're reading in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter is called The Appearance of Lord Varaha, and tonight we're starting with text number 10. If someone would like to lead tonight's closing kirtan, please let me know, send a direct message. Very interested to hear your comments and question as always. And we're so glad you could be with us, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Akendra Prabhu. Thank you to all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Etavatyatmachar vida karya yapachyatir gura shaktya pramatar grihyeta sadharam katamatsaraihi. O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Purport. When the four previous sons of Brahma, the sages Sanak, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar, refused to obey their father, Brahma, refused to obey their father, Brahma was mortified, and his anger was manifested in the shape of Rudra. That incident was not forgotten by Brahma, and therefore the obedience of Manu Swayambhuva was very encouraging. From the material point of view, the four sages' disobedience to the order of their father was certainly abominable. But because such disobedience was for a higher purpose, they were free from the reaction of disobedience. Those who disobey their fathers on material grounds, however, are surely subjected to disciplinary reaction for such disobedience. Manu's obedience to his father on material grounds was certainly free from envy, and in the material world, it is imperative for ordinary men to follow the example of Manu. Om Agyan Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Bhagavana Lolita Sri Vishakam Vitamshta He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vanshakol Patagubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Etavat Yatmajaya Vira Karya Japachatir Gura Shakya Pramattayar Griheta Sadharam Gatamatsarahi. Brahma was grateful that his son Manu agreed to do whatever his father might order. And so he's addressed as Vira, hero. He addressed Manu in that way. And he instructed him that this is how a son should act. He should honor the instructions of his father. And Shaktya Pramataya Grihyeta, he should accept the order with full energy, full try to execute it to the full extent of his power. Apramattai, without being crazy. Apramatta. Without restriction, without obedience, without following the superior, one acts according to one's own whims and is acting in a fashion which is pramatta, mad. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yadindriya priti or apramati nasaru manye yata. People, Asana Pikleshada, not being sane, people become bewildered by the material energy, and they act in so many foolish ways. Foolish means they give up their prescribed duty and they act whimsically. And then nasa siddhim abapnoti nasukam na param gatim. Then they can't attain perfection, the perfection for which the human life is meant. They can't even become happy, materially speaking. And they lose the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. So one should use one's full energy sanely for the service of Krishna under proper guidance. Kriyeta sa adaram, with great delight or honor. One should honor the instructions of the spiritual master. Gata matsarai, without envy, without resentment. One shouldn't think that our superiors are just imposing upon us. They're spoiling our fun. They don't understand. They're bound by their old conventions. Of course, devotees like the Kumaras or Prahlad Maharaj can defy the instructions of their father for the sake of transcendental service to the Lord. That's a higher consideration. But if we're not going to do that, then we're on the material platform, and then we should follow the guidance, or not only guidance, but we should try to satisfy our superiors by carrying out their instructions. Included here in this verse, one might detect a sort of subtle criticism of the Kumaras, or at least one might sense that Brahma is still smarting from the disobedience of his sons, the Kumaras. So by praising Manu, indirectly he's remembering the disobedience. Praising the obedience of Manu, he's indirectly remembering the disobedience of the Kumaras. But again, that disobedience was justified because they disobeyed for the sake of the service of the Supreme Personality of God. Okay, let's see what questions, comments. I think something went by.
Yes, Maharaj. Saraswati Mata says, Param Puja Maharaj, envy is a hallmark of conditional souls, including envy of Krishna and his devotees. But if only we could admit that we made an utter mess of our relationship with Krishna, but can at least feel admiration and happiness in knowing all other devotees are taking such good care of Krishna by adoring him and seeing to his happiness. Also, adoration for superiors is recommended here, but we are warned about the allure of profit, adoration, and distinction. So it seems contradictory.
Why? Profit, adoration, and distinction. What does that have to? I don't see why it's contradictory to carrying out the orders of the superior. If one carries out the order of the spiritual master, one may get profit, one may get adoration, one may get distinction, or one may not. It's a matter of duty. Krishna tells Arjuna, you perform your prescribed duty without considering whether there'll be labha, labho, jaya, jaya, tasmad yujashva, yujashva. The order should be carried, it's our duty, that's all. Not a question of profit, fame, or adoration, it's my duty. If I profit, Hare Krishna, and if I lose, Hare Krishna. But it's my duty. That sense, the material endeavor is somehow let me enjoy, somehow let me profit, somehow let me gain by this or by that. Kamo papoga padamai tavadati nishchita. This is the business of life, how to enjoy sense gratification. But kamasya nendriya, not indriya. Human life is not meant for sense gratification. That should just take as much as one needs. And jivasya tattva jigyasa. One should use this human form of life for inquiring about jivasya tattva, about one's spiritual identity, about one's relationship with Krishna. Narto yaschaya karmati. That should be one's purpose. So for that, one needs training also. One needs guidance. And one needs discipline. And from where does that come? From our superiors. We can't expect that our peers will guide us, or that our peers will properly engage us. They're foolish like us. And yet we think that by following them, we're going somewhere. So once we get this understanding, and then it's incumbent on the superiors also to properly guide the subordinates, the juniors. The superiors should not be materialistic and foolish. Otherwise, the juniors will just be the next generation of fools. The seniors should be seriously engaged in the service of Krishna, not just invoking the position of superior to get obedience or service or sense gratification. One should be Krishna conscious so that one can engage one's subordinates properly in the service of the Lord. We should perform our prescribed duties so that we can instruct others how to perform their duties or set the example how to perform prescribed duties. Okay, anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. One thing I was thinking on this sentence, that in the material world, it is imperative for ordinary men to follow the example of Manu. I appreciate that you brought up the great need for training, because most of us are mixed. We have some motives for this, some motives for that, and we can't maybe think of ourselves completely as on the transcendental platform if we're not And sometimes it requires very careful guidance to know exactly what to do in any given circumstance based on our own aims and nature. Like, I'm thinking that, as it says in the material world, it's imperative for ordinary men to follow the example of Manu. So it would be dangerous for a sadhaka to think himself to be an extraordinary man when he's not. And so therefore that guidance is absolutely necessary, that someone can see one's nature, where someone is at, and can say, well, you're maybe 30% surrendered, so here's the prescription for you, sort of thing.
Yeah, the seniors should know the science of Krishna, and they should be self-controlled, sober, apramatta. If the seniors are crazy, what are the juniors going to be? And therefore, this business of having children is serious business. It's not just that children should be byproducts of sense gratification, and then their whole life is meant for increasing sense gratification, the sense gratification of the family, their own enjoyment, family enjoyment. It's not that we don't need generations of fools bewildered by Maya. The parents and guardians should be sober, dhira sachinamukti. Then they can beget good offspring, good children, and those children can be, again, should be guided so that so that they know the purpose of their life, and so they act for that purpose, not just for foolishness. The modern civilization represents advancement in foolishness. Children should be brought up with video games, and we will start to go with how they should be brought up, but in a way that's foolish and pramatta, practically mad. You've gotten this human form of life after millions of lifetimes, and now we're going to use it for foolishness. No. So a great responsibility is on the seniors to give proper guidance, and then the responsibility is on the juniors also to take it without resentment and follow. Okay. Satvam asyam apatyani sadrishan yatmano gunaihi upadya shasadharmina kam yagyai purusham yaja. Since you are my very obedient son, I ask you to beget children qualified like yourself in the womb of your wife. Rule the world in pursuance of the principles of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus worship the Lord by performances of yajna. Purport. The purpose of the material creation by Brahma is clearly described herein. Every human being should beget nice children in the womb of his wife as a sacrifice for the purpose of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service. In the Vishnu Purana, it is stated Varnashrama Jayadvaita Parapuman Vishnura Rajyate Panta Nanyat Tato Shakaranam. One can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, by proper discharge of the principles of Varna and Ashram. There's no alternative to pacifying the Lord by execution of the principles of the Varnashram system. Vishnu worship is the ultimate aim of human life. Those who take the license of married life for sense enjoyment must also take the responsibility to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. And the first stepping stone is the Varnashram Dharma system. Varnashram Dharma is the systematic institution for advancing in worship of Vishnu. However, if one directly engages in the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it may not be necessary to undergo the disciplinary system of Varnashram Dharma. The other sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, directly engaged in devotional service, and thus they had no need to execute the principles of Varnashram Dharma. The sa tvam asyam apatyani sadrashani atmana gunai. You should, since you're an obedient son, you should have children by your wife. This is the duty of householder life. What is that? Putrate. I don't have it with me. But that's the purport of it, is that one should marry for the sake of having a good child. Not for sense gratification. The sense gratification will be there. And that sense gratification may be, what should we say, an inducement or a reason for marriage. Otherwise, why bother? By nature's arrangement, there's some sense gratification in marriage or in begetting children. So that's an inducement. But that's not the purpose. That's not the ultimate aim. The aim should be that by having children, one will worship or serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I may like my service, that's a different thing. I may enjoy my service, but it's service. It's not an independent program for enjoyment or doing what I like. So the Vedic culture is very particular about this. First of all, sex should be within marriage only. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi paratarsha. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna accepts sex life to be one of the manifestations of his opulence, provided it's dharma viruddha, not contrary to the principles of dharma. What does that mean? Both Baladev Vidyabhushan and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comment, and Srila Prabhupada all comment that dharma virud means um, for the sake of having children. Only, matra. In their commentary, they both use the word matra. Yes, not more than once a month for the purpose of having children. That's dharma avirud. And more than that is dharma virud. Contrary to religious principles, or Prabhupada just said sinful. So there's a license in householder life for sense gratification, but it's not an unlimited license. Or, yes, it's not an unlimited license. The license is for sex life that's dharma avirud, not contrary to dharma. And not contrary means for the purpose of having children by one's legitimate wife, sex not more than once a month. More than that is contrary to religious principles. The purpose of sex should be to serve the Lord. And then within that, there'll be enjoyment and so on. But not that just for enjoyment. Then that quickly degrades. It's already degraded. Of course, sex attraction is already material attraction. But then at least when it's dharma virud, it's bounded within some limits so that one can make progress so that one can use it for the service of the Lord. But when we go beyond regulative principles, it simply becomes sense gratification, and it becomes pramatta, madness. Nunam pramatta kurute, and it becomes vikarma. Vikarma means activity contrary to duty. Activity that gets one entangled more. Activity that will have some material reaction. So you should have good children. Sadrashani atmana guna. You're a good son, you have a good wife, and you should have good children with qualities like yours. So one should be good, one should follow the regulative principles of varnashram dharma, or the principles of devotional service. And then within that context, one may have sex for getting an equally good child. Srila Prabhupada also in different places, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in different places has instructed, before having sex, one should chant 50 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, husband and wife. Therefore, the expression is there in ISKCON, 50-round kid. A child purposefully begotten with the mentality of service to the Lord. And what was the other? Oh, and Prabhupada said, by the order of the spiritual master, with the permission of the spiritual master. So, utpadya shasadharmena gam yagyaya purusham yaja. And then you should rule the world. Shasa, gam. You should rule the world. That's all right. People want to rule the world, at least passionate people want to rule the world. So Manu is told, yes, rule the world. Dharmena, on religious principles, or for the sake of helping the living entities engage properly in the service of Krishna. Yagyai Purusham Yaja. How to teach them, how to engage in sacrifice. In previous ages, there were fire sacrifices and so on. Now the sacrifice is Hari Kirtan, to engage in the congregational chanting, glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, when householder life is meant to follow these, when householder life follows these principles, then it's counted as devotional service. All right, there's some question that went by.
Yes, Maharaj. First of all, Prabhin Prabhu quotes a verse, Tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyeta yavata matkata shravanado va shraddha yavan najayate. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions.
Yes, Prabhupada's giving that direction. Here, it's implicit in the purport also, that this is for ordinary men. Ordinary men means those not engaged in devotional service. For ordinary men, all right, at least follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma, and you'll come to the position of devotional service. What is that in the Bhagavad Gita? Atachitam samadhatum nashaknoshi maistiram abhyasa yogena tato mamich chaptum dhananjay. If you can't immediately engage in devotional service, then follow regulative principles by which you'll make advancement in that direction. So the Varnashram Dharma is counted as the first step in human progress toward that goal. As probably quotes, that Varnashrama Charvata Purushena Parakuma Vishnua Radyate. The society should not be helter-skelter, haphazard, purposeless. Everything should be arranged in such a way that human society can progress in service to the Lord. And it's the duty of the leaders to see to it. Manu is told to rule the world. What does it mean to rule? See that everyone is performing prescribed duty. Then they'll be happy. Otherwise, what is that? Yagyartat karmanon yatra lokoyam karmabandha. By performing, by following the principles of Varnashram Dharma for the sake of sacrifice, or for the sake of satisfying the Lord, one will make progress. Otherwise, one will become more and more entangled. Thank you for that. Something else? If there was another comment.
Yes, Maharaj. Saraswati Mata says, sorry to ask, but a devotee couple here were preaching that for happy marriage, it's not sinful if one cannot follow the regulative principle for following reproduction, and that Srila Prabhupada made exceptions for couples. This is confusing if that's true. The devotees said the reason why ISKCON has such a high divorce rate is due to these rules that many cannot follow.
The divorce rate outside of ISKCON is also due to these rules that people can't follow? That makes no sense. The high divorce rate in ISKCON is due to rules that people can't follow, but the same divorce rate is there in those who have no interest in such rules outside of ISKCON. So your extrapolation from the numbers makes no sense whatsoever. It's rubbish. It's a sort of statistical argument, and it's a foolish statistical argument. It's a senseless argument. Otherwise, we should see a different kind of pattern. And it's also what's called a false cause argument. We see B comes after A, therefore A caused B. There are regulative principles that people can't follow, and there are divorces. Therefore, the regulative principles cause the divorces. No, you have to prove. What is that? There's a saying in science. I know the gist of it. I'm just trying to remember the phrasing of it. Correlation does not demonstrate causality. That two numbers coincide or go together doesn't mean that one caused the other. Correlation without causation. Gee, great. I was hoping that you were on the call, Doug. Correlation without causation. That the numbers correlate doesn't mean that that A caused B. It simply happened to go together, but not that one caused the other. Anyway, we got caught on that last point about numbers, but read the point again, whole question, because it had a lot of things in it that deserve comment. Kendra, could you read that question for me?
Sure, Manas, I just have to scroll. So again, a devotee couple here were preaching that for happy marriage, it's not sinful if one cannot follow the regulative principle for following reproduction, and that Srila Prabhupada made exceptions for couples. This is confusing if that's true.
All right, let's come to this last point first. That Prabhupada made exceptions for couples. I'm not aware of any such incident where Prabhupada said, don't follow the regular principles, just do what you like. Have fun. This sounds like folklore to me. I'm not aware of any instance where Prabhupada said, yeah, don't follow the regular principles, just do what you like. That will be fine. This sounds like an invention. I'm not aware of it at all. Then the next point is, read it again, that sentence, if you would be so kind.
Sure. Yes, that for happy marriage, it's not sinful if one cannot follow the regulative principle for following reproduction.
It's not sinful if one cannot follow, for a happy marriage, it's not sinful. First of all, you're an illusion. You're going to have a happy marriage by not following the regulative principles. Krishna says, Nasa siddham avapnoti nasukam naparam gatim. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, if you don't follow the principles of Shastra, which is what we're talking about, you won't be happy. To say nothing of going back to Godhead or attaining perfection, you won't even be happy. There we can talk about causation. Krishna says if by breaking the regulative principles, you won't be happy. You may think you'll be happy, but you won't be. So for a happy marriage, let me break the regulative. No, Krishna says you won't be happy by going outside these regulative principles. What does it mean for a happy marriage? It means for sense gratification. Happiness and sense gratification are different. Real happiness is on the platform of goodness, at least, or really the transcendental platform. But otherwise, we're talking about happiness and passion. Yat tadagre vishyendriya samyoga, by sense gratification. Yat tadagre mritopama. One may get some nectar in the beginning, but pariname vishamiva. At the end, it will be like poison. We might take that, not just on statistical argument, but on Krishna's authority, as the cause for so many divorces in ISKCON or outside ISKCON. When you take marriage as a matter of duty, that's it, you're married. And you perform your duties. And you don't think, oh, we're not compatible, we're not blah, 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 blah. All right, this is my duty. I don't even think about how else I could enjoy or be happier by a different arrangement. Therefore, in Indian society, there was no divorce. You just accepted, this is my duty. All right. And I won't be happier by trying to do anything different. And that's statistical also, by the way. And I won't try to build the argument, but the divorce rate for second marriages is higher than for first, and the curve continues for third marriages. They break up at a still higher rate. That apart, by not following Krishna's directions, one will not be happy. By forgetting Krishna, by disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. The argument is, by disobeying the orders of the spiritual master, I'll have a happy marriage. How sensible, how much sense does that make? By violating the regulative principles, I'll be more happy. By the way, I just happened upon, this is Baladev's comment on Dharma Viruta Bhuteshu. Dharma Viruta Swapatnyam Putropati Matra Hetu. Dharma Viruta means only for the purpose of producing offspring through one's wife. And Vishwanath says, Dharma Viruta Swaparyayam Putropati Matropa Yogi. Same thing. So Prabhupada's following exactly when he's giving this direction, only for the purpose of having children. He's exactly following in the line from Baladev and Vishwanath, who say exactly the same thing. So the idea that we'll be happy by breaking the regulative principles is foolishness. Tasmat Shastra Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vyavastita. If Krishna says, therefore, you should follow. You should know what to do and what not to do by following the regulative principles. Now, let's speak to this point that it's not sinful. We have some evidence in this regard. Sex is allowed only for the begetting of children, not for enjoyment. One can indulge in sex to beget a good child for the benefit of the family, society, and world. Otherwise, sex is against the rules and regulations of religious life. Bhagavatam 5:14-9 purport. Against the principles, rules, and regulations of religious life, dharma virud. Sex life is religious principle in this way, that when you want a good child, in that sense, if you undertake sex life, that is sanctioned. That is religion. And without that, everything sex life is non-religion. Lecture, New York, October 3rd, 1966. And again, wife is accepted only for getting son, not for sexual intercourse. Putrarte kriyate parya. That's the quote I had in mind. Putrarte kriyate parya. With your wife for the sake that one takes a wife for the sake of getting a good son, a good child. So when you have sex life simply for generating good son, that is Krishna. And if you want to enjoy your senses, that is pap. Pap means sin. Morning Walk, March 31st, 1974. Shall we contribute a couple of more? Let's see. Even in your life, married life, if you indulge in sex life more than once a month, or in pregnancy, that is against religious principle. July 25th, 1971. So, if you have sex life more than this, that is against religious principles. And if you become against religious principles, then you become sinful. And if you become sinful, then you cannot make progress toward God realization. September 24th, 1971. Could you read that statement again, Lakendra Prabhu, about happy marriage?
Sure, Maharaj. That for happy marriage, it's not sinful if one cannot follow the regulative principle for following reproduction.
So who am I supposed to believe, you or Prabhupada? You say it's not sinful, and Prabhupada explicitly says that it is. So who's right? From where I sit, this is an open and shut case. Your claim is that it's not sinful, and our founder Acharya says that it is. So who am I supposed to believe? And as you said, it's confusing. It's confusing because they're saying something which is untrue, in which their logic is faulty, their use of statistics is useless, misleading, and their statement about what's sinful and what's not sinful is demonstrably contrary to what Srila Prabhupada said. And they've got some sort of Prabhupada made exceptions claim, which has no backing, nothing that we could verify or show to be unverified. It's just throwing it out there. Prabhupada made exceptions. Anything else on this?
Tulsi Priya says, why not just break the rule and stay married then? There's a rule against divorce also.
I'm not sure what then refers to. I'm confused about what point is being made. I mean, you can make the same point for anything. If coffee makes me happy, let me drink coffee. It's not what Prabhupada said, but Prabhupada was merciful, Prabhupada was lenient, and coffee helps me perform better. It helps me get my work done. It makes it relieves stress and anxiety. So let me drink coffee. Yeah, the threat of divorce is a flimsy excuse. Yes. And one might argue that this contributes to divorce. In Krishna consciousness, if we get married for Krishna consciousness, then when things are good or when things are bad, anyway, this is what I do. I made a vow. This is my devotional service. I serve this husband. I take care of this wife. This is what we do, because my goal is not sense gratification. My goal is spiritual progress. And this is my duty for spiritual advancement. If my goal is sense gratification, then yeah, sex whenever and whenever, just to for happiness or to have a happy marriage, or to get rid of an unhappy marriage. My senses are not satisfied. Well, that's not a surprise. My senses are not satisfied. It must be because we're incompatible, or because she's a this or he's a that, or a this or a that, or just because there's a better prospect someplace else. So if our marriage is going to be for sense gratification, if divorce offers better prospects for sense gratification, let me divorce and find a better deal. So ultimately, those who are proposing, let us enjoy sense gratification unrestrictedly within marriage, are shooting themselves in the foot if they want to have a stable and happy family life. With sense gratification, once you take the restrictions off, knows no bounds. Let me be happy this way, let me be happy that way. Then it becomes all rubbish. And what about, while we're at it, since we're having sex unrestrictedly, are we going to use contraceptives or not? If the purpose is for having children, then obviously not. But if the purpose is not for having children, if it's for enjoyment, it's for a happy family life, then let's get real. You're going to add contraception to this picture. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You're going to have more children than you want to pay for. And so you're going to use condoms or pills or what have you. And is that pious or not? All right. I think we can stop here. Manu, the summary is that Manu was advised to have good children for the service of the Lord in obedience to the order of Brahma. All right, we're a couple minutes over. Can we have some kirtan?
Mahesh Panditji, are you available? Yes.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Pariprajaka Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Go. Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. And thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Saraswati Mata says, thank you, Maharaj, for clarifying everything.
Well, thank you to Srila Prabhupada for clarifying everything.
Thank you, Maharaj. Wonderful class.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna. Causation is not the same as correlation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here, especially Maharaj. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayadvaita Maharaj Ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Rainbow.